Yo, welcome to today's episode. Today we sit down with David. He is an artist with a big background in comics. He has worked on Spider-Man, he has worked on multiple DC comics like Batman, Justice League, and a lot of different comics and Tomb Raider and, well, a ton of things. And he created his first self-published comic 25 years ago, which is called Kaos Moon. He has now taken all the work it's done since then on the Kaos Moon brand, on that story, and is bringing it to blockchain, to NFTs, to the Wax ecosystem in the form of collectibles and as an upcoming game that is building on the idea of Magic, the Gathering, and going forward. So similar to that, he is launching everything now, working on it. So let's jump into the interview. Let's get to know David and let's see what he has done so far.
Name is David Boller. I currently live in Switzerland. I'm mostly started out as a comic book artist, a animator, sort of like all the whole pop culture type of thing. I moved in my early 20s, moved to the US, started working for Marvel Comics, DC Comics, Image Comics, just pretty much the whole gamut. Actually, I did even Magic the Gathering comics in 1995. And moved back to Switzerland pretty much a few years after 9/11 when the fun stopped over there. And I've basically been living here now, created my own company, self-publishing mostly, doing graphic novels, European style type of graphic novels for a few years, doing much more animation now these days. And as of lately, really big interested in NFTs. And I think that's kind of like where I see my future.
Yeah, NFTs is very exciting. And I want to first dig into that because you went into the US to work with animations and comics and everything very early on. And how has that been, the journey from back then to now? What's different and how has that experience been for you?
There is a lot different. I mean, you cannot even describe the difference basically, because when I started out, I'm like the kind of kid that started out because my parents didn't want to buy a TV. So if you're a kid and you have no TV, they say, okay, good. So you read comics. So of course I saw the comics and I wanted to imitate that. So I started drawing. And when I was very young, when I was in the gymnasium school, I basically started making my own comics, photocopy them, and basically selling them for profit to my school friends.
Nice.
So that's kind of like where my entrepreneurial thing started. And then back at the time, I mean, there was no internet. So everything was basically done through letters, through mail. And basically what had happened is that I met an editor from Marvel Comics at the comic book show in Switzerland. And he says, yeah, well, when you're in New York, why don't you just come by? So I was like, okay, good. That was an open invitation. And of course, as a 20-year-old, you kind of don't really get it. You sort of like, okay, good. I'll just go to New York and I'll drop in with my portfolio. That's kind of like a long story, but on that very first time when I dropped in, I actually got a job right then and there. They're like, nice. What do you want to do? I love Excalibur books. Okay, here you go, do one. And the second job was already Spider-Man because the writer of that Excalibur story was the editor on Spider-Man. That's what Marvel would do at the time. So writers and editor would intermingle and push each other's jobs and stuff like that. But back at the time, there was no other way of getting a job than going to New York. You would not work in comics or in case of animation to go to California. I mean, you had to be on location. There was no remote working. And the other thing was the trust. When they give you a job, they have to trust that you actually do the job. I had a lot of kids at my age, especially. That was actually the first questions, like, how old are you? I'm like, I'm 24. Are you married? No, good. Fine. Do you have children? Oh, super, great. Because what freelancers would do, they will bring in their kids to beg for more money. They says, do you see how many kids I have? You think I can live with what you're paying me here? And then the editor would be put in a bad spot, so they were happy to have like a kid that's not too young, not too old, not married, and no kids.
Interesting. And okay, so you name dropped Spider-Man there, which is very exciting. I mean, a lot of these, you sent me a description of what you have done before as an introduction, and a lot of these names that you dropped are very impressive. What are some of the titles that you have worked with that people can relate to and understand?
Well, I mean, obviously the obvious Marvel things, like I said, Spider-Man was definitely one of the bigger ones. You know, everybody wanted to work on Spider-Man. You know, it was like when I was a kid, you know, I was a huge Spider-Man fan. And I have to say I was a fan until I actually worked on it, because then I realized those spider webs on a costume aren't really that easy to draw. You know, it's actually kind of annoying, you know, and that was kind of like, I don't really want to do this anymore. Batman, I then actually, Kaos Moon started as a comic right after my Spider-Man stuff, and the Kaos Moon work actually gave me a job on Batman. Then I did a few Batman books, but didn't really like that too much either. Then I did some Justice League, Superman stuff, Magic the Gathering. The first wave of after Magic became really big in the early '90s, Valiant Comics did a comic book line of Magic comics. I drew one of them, like with some tiger character. I don't know, Jedido Channon, whatever his name was.
Cool. I like. I think it must have been in the 90s or early 2000s. I used to play Magic, and I think I had a comic for Magic. I recall that, or my friends had. I know that I read it, so I don't know.
When you do a search on it online, it's gotten surprisingly popular. The card is a very rare card. It's actually a cool card. It's like a tiger warrior kind of character. And I recently did a search to find some images for my Instagram account. I was like, easier than scanning stuff myself.
Yeah.
See if anybody put anything online. And I saw there's a huge fan community for that. Same as Legacy of Kain. I did, after I quit the Batman thing, basically, I went to Top Cow. That was the heyday of Tomb Raider. So I've done a lot of Eidos comics. You know, I've done Tomb Raider, I've done Legacy of Kain, Fear Effect, Daikatana, which of course was a complete blunder. You know, so you remember the Sword of Daikatana? That was John Romero, you know, the Doom guy.
Yeah, I actually do not know that one.
Yeah, there's a good reason why you don't know it.
all the other comics you dropped, I know all of them, but no, not that one.
Because that game actually bankrupted Eidos.
Oh,
they gave John Romero so much money, and he just sat around and did nothing. And at the end, he delivered a game that was so shoddy and so bad that people just absolutely, this is probably the most hated game in history. And I happened to do a comic for it. So my comic got buried, you know, of course. And so I did that. I done that. Oh, yeah. Then when I came to Switzerland, the big one was tennis player Andy Murray.
Yeah.
I did a big thing for him, basically. There's a video of Andy Murray being confronted with my comic book artwork. And there was actually a funny quote. BBC did a big printout of Andy Murray, a 2-meter printout, and they asked Andy Murray, "So, what would you do? Would you put this superhero Andy Murray in your kitchen?" His answer was, "Well, maybe, but I have to ask my wife first."
Yeah, you gotta have permissions, right?
I know. I was like, oh boy, you know. But so Andy Murray, and lately I've been working on a really big thing with Audemars Piguet, Swiss luxury watch company, on a Marvel thing. I can't talk about the details yet, because that will be revealed in April. But yeah, I got some pretty high profile stuff.
Yeah, and I think that will make people very excited, because right now, why you are here, why you are on this channel, and why we are talking is because you are into the NFT space now.
Correct.
And before we dig too much into that, how did you get from doing all the comics in New York, moving back, and now find your way into NFTs? How was that journey?
I'll tell you how it was. It was a 5-minute awakening, as it always is. First time I ever opened Photoshop in 1998, it was first. I just knew it. There's moments, you know, when you look at something, you just know it. It's the same with people. You meet a person, you just know this is a person you're going to get along with. Or like, you know, the love at first sight thing. Oh, I'm going to marry this girl or whatever. That's like the same thing, basically. I've always been, for years now, after my experience with mainstream publishers, I've been self-publishing. The problem is with self-publishing the comic area and animation area and stuff like that, it's very cumbersome. I mean, you're fighting against the big boys, basically on their turf, you know, on their dime. And that's a real big problem. When I saw NFT, which was brought to me by a filmmaker friend of mine, and when I saw the possibility in those first 5 minutes, I knew this is going to solve all my problems, basically. This is a way for a content creator that has as much content as I have. We can get into that, basically, what I have and what I think will be really good for it. But it makes somebody completely independent. I love working by myself. I do not like working with other people. And I don't mean this like in a derogatory way. I'm not a bad team player, basically. It just so happens that I have my ideas on how things are done. And I don't want to be part of a team. It's either me and a bunch of underlings. That sounds cruel, basically, but or like, you know.
No, but I can totally relate there.
And that's the great thing about comics, you know, on animation. You can do this. I mean, with the programs I have, I can make a feature animated film all by myself. Good, I need voices and music and stuff like that, but just the art part of it, you know. And NFTs are even more simplified. You can make beautiful cards. I mean, much more elaborate than basically what I'm doing with Kaos Moon now. That hasn't really been done yet. But you can really push the limits. And I saw this as a way that nobody can take this away. That's the great thing about the blockchain. Yeah, until they turn the electricity off and, you know, internet off all over the world, which is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's a really sort of like a liberation of you're creating content. You're going to get a royalty. You can do whatever you want. You can do it alone. And you probably going to get rewarded more or less handsomely.
Yeah, and like... On the screen now, people can see your work with the Kaos Moon and what you are bringing. You send me a whole kit of things, which is very exciting. And what you have done is really, it looks really great. And with the story, with your background, I think people will find this very interesting with what you will do in the future. So that is awesome. And I also believe that NFTs are a great way to monetize creators all over the world, small and big, and everyone can be their own publisher and everyone can reach out.
And since I started, you know, I mean, the next step since I started, you know, at the beginning it was just like, okay, good, I want to basically self-publish my stories, my art, whatever. Then you start working on a concept, you see what's doable and what's not doable. Let's be honest, besides all the great things, it's still a very restrictive environment. You know, it's a lot of things you cannot do. And there's still a lot of problems. You know, I mean, the linking situation, you know, I mean, there's countless articles on CoinDesk and other sites basically where they're talking about, oh, my NFT disappeared. You know, I mean, these kind of things should not happen.
No, they should not. Yeah, like a lot of the NFT standards that were early and on Ethereum, they do not even have the graphics inside the NFT. They have a separate system that is not on the blockchain. So a lot of Ethereum NFTs, for everyone that invests in them, they do not have the graphics on the blockchain. That is crazy. It's not even a link to it. On Wax, we link to IPFS, which is a hash. Absolutely. If anyone changed anything on the image, the hash is changed. It has to be the exact same image. So anyone can host it, anyone can pin it, they control it. So if I buy an NFT for thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, I will pin my own image. I don't expect that I will ever have to do it, but I will do it because if I don't and that vanishes, it's a tough situation to be in. And if I just make sure that I go into Pinata Cloud, I just hit pin this, I'm done. It's free service to do.
Absolutely. I use it.
And then that means that this NFT will be here forever. As long as this is pinned, as long as it works. So yeah. And
can you imagine you're paying 20 grand or 30 grand and you're looking at a 404? I mean, it's like, I can't even imagine that moment of shock.
Yeah,
that will go through you, you know, to have like
something that annoys me there is on Wax you can have these IPFS built in, but some people still host it on their web server, which is very annoying because for one, they can update the graphics, they can change it to rugs if they want to, as it happened on Ethereum. But also, if they disappear, if they go out of business in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, they can't maintain the server, the images are gone, and it's locked to their exact domain. So you can't change the link to it. It's in your NFT, and you can't do anything. Right. It's gone. Like if it's on IPFS, if they go out of business, you can still pin the image yourself, or another service can come and pin the images for everyone. And it will work for everyone. Like the Wax blockchain, the people that run it, the guilds, they could start to host pinning services and start to make sure that all of these works. And teams are already doing that, by the way. Like Pink Network and Crypto Alliance, both of them are running their own IPFS servers, and there are more people setting them up. So the infrastructure is here, and yeah, people have just chosen not to use it. A lot of it is choice.
Yeah, and there's a lot of problems with, like, for example, OpenSea trying to surround the gas fee issues by sort of like pre-minting. What do they call it? It's a word for clean minting, or some kind of empty minting, where you actually, they kind of tell you you've made the NFT, but you actually haven't minted it until it's sold. You know, so there's a lot of like weird things going on and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So that's
like on Wax, you have a link. I click buy. That's when it's minted. I mean, it's not that hard. That's how you do with the drops on Wax. Like, you can mint them all at once before if you want as a creator. You can have pre-minted, but you can also just create a drop from atomic assets. You can just hit it, and if I go buy, that's when it's minted. So there's no
yeah,
cost
the
before.
drops. That's probably one of my least favorite topics on the Wax situation. I mean, it's still pretty cryptic, especially once you get into the towards the end, where you have to start typing in them manually the stuff by hand. I think that would.
Exactly. That shows how early we are, because they are building an interface for it. They just have a big load of things. Yeah, it is an interface coming. It's just not done yet. Yeah, that would.
Well, I can see they're building a whole host of things. You know, I mean, there's a lot of other problems that I've encountered working with Wax too. And I did post in their Discord, and I was essentially told to just deal with it. So they said they're working on it right now. There's just no guarantee that this idea, because of course, as a creator, you know, I mean, for me, the way it is right now is very restrictive.
Yeah.
My mind is going, what can I do next? What can I do that's bigger and better and more, especially creating an immersive environment. That's really kind of like what, especially also Kaos Moon is a world building situation. You build this world of these shamans and this witches and just this whole supernatural occult world, which, by the way, there really isn't that many games out about this, basically, or like any, even like most of the stuff is the standard fantasy with your orcs and your you know, your Warhammer, Warcraft, whatever it's called, you know, that kind of stuff. But really sort of like occult, and I'm a big interest. I've always been interested in the occult since I'm a little kid, so I'm very knowledgeable about this. I have another project called Sky Gods, which deals with extraterrestrials, which, you know, I'm doing on another platform, I have to say, because I'm sort of platform agnostic.
That's like, good.
Everybody's kind of like, you know, you have your community, which is great, you know, and the other platform, I'll tell you what it is. It's Tezos. They also have a really great community. It's a really great chain, basically. They haven't really gotten, it's not as sexy right now as it possibly could be, and as it probably will be in the future. But it's a really great community. But they were kind of like, when I started the Kaos Moon thing, they were kind of like, oh, I see you're going to Wax. I was just, listen, it doesn't matter. Each project has its own demands.
Yeah.
And I'm getting something from Tezos I cannot really do on Wax, you know?
That's cool. And if I may ask, what is that?
What do you mean? What is that?
What do you get from Tezos that you can't get from Wax?
I can't really go too much into details because I got a running application with the Tezos Foundation.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, here's the thing, you know, as a chain itself, Tesla's been very undervalued in terms of financial, basically. Not that that means anything, because, you know, it's Hoskins was just going off on Cardano the other day, basically being upset about all the people that are upset that Cardano is not going mooning anytime soon. And he's like, you know what? I don't really care. That's not about that for me, you know? For me, it's about this, and he lists the whole thing. He says, you may not even moon until 10 years from now or 5 years or whatever. I don't know. It's not about the money for me. So those people who keep shilling shit on the internet about money, and we all know who those people are.
But it's kind of fun that they I think they increased, I don't know how many percent. This is 4,000 in a year or something. Cardano, it's crazy. I think.
Yeah, but it hasn't moved in months. I mean, it's between 1.15 and 140. I mean, it's been like this forever. You know, and especially now where Bitcoin's going through the roof. Even Ethereum is like, I just saw today, it's almost worth 2,000 again. It's 2,900, whatever. So it's going up again, basically. Cardano is just flat.
It's a stable coin.
And Tesla's to some extent, actually Tesla's has gone up quite a bit. I mean, it was like 250 maybe in January or February, and now it's like, oh, it's over $4. So it's gone up because it's got a lot of like, but Tesla was also built like Polkadot and Cardano in response to the failings of Ethereum.
Yeah,
There's a lot of mistakes that were made on Ethereum were seen by a lot of developers. So Tesla has this situation of like the update for the updates.
Wax is created by the same reason. The team behind Wax saw that they can't do what they wanted to do on Ethereum. It would be impossible.
Yeah, I know.
So that's why Wax is here. And yeah, for me, I'm also I work in a lot of EOS.io blockchains, but I'm very chain agnostic. I see the winnings of a lot of them, and I think that the more different chains and projects there are, the more we can learn. Absolutely. By each other, from each other, we can make this grow in a like as a community, as a big community, not a small tribe. So I'm very up for that. For me, why I spend so much time in Wax is it's so much fun.
It is. Wax is hands down the easiest user experience of all of them. You know, I mean, I can't say I did do some test mints on the Element.io, which is the first bigger Tesla's marketplace, and that went really, really well. And that was a test net.
Yeah.
I mean, the test net, it went really, really super well. And it's just not quite as sexy yet. I mean, that's like my biggest problem with Tesla's. It's just that it hasn't really got Wax, because it has these big brands that are coming in.
Yeah.
You know, like Godzilla versus King Kong and, you know, like those kind of things. It just adds like this extra pop culture element. And Tesla's doesn't have that yet. But for me, that's also an opportunity, because I can say, okay, good, maybe I'm going to be the first one on there. And if I'm the first one on something like that, and I'm going to get the full support of that, not only Tesla's community, but also Tesla's foundation,
exactly,
then I'm going to be in a pretty good shape.
Yeah, that is great. Like another blockchain that is really starting to move the NFT ideas are Phantasma chain. They are also doing.
Funny that you bring that up, because I was just looking that up. I mean, I've been following them for a while now. I have a third project that I actually own a lot of content on. We're talking about 1.5 years worth of content every day. If I make a daily NFT, I have 1.5 years worth of content. And I was looking at them. The only problem with Phantasma really is, first of all, it's the onboarding.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand that. Why do I have to stake a coin in order to get enough RAM to mint my NFT?
Yeah, you need our calories.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, come on, seriously? Yeah. And then did you look at their stats?
Which stats?
The stats of how much business they're actually doing.
No, I have not.
Okay, I'll tell you. Their Telegram group is huge. One of the biggest ones. They got like almost 7,000 members.
Yeah, that one. I'm in there.
A lot of activity. But then you actually look at how much business they do. They only do $19,000 worth of business a week. Look at the Wax platform.
Yeah.
You can add a few more zeros at the end easily.
Yeah, and what I like about Wax is that Lightlager talked about that yesterday on his live stream, that if you go and look on a lot of NFTs on Ethereum, they may have offers for a higher dollar value. They may have higher dollar value trades, but trades per NFT or per type of NFTs are usually very low, like in how many trades they have. And Correct. If you go into Wax NFT, most NFTs has multiple trades, and a lot of them have a lot of trades.
Well, look at that radar.
Yeah,
I'll tell you, Wax is by far number one.
Yeah, there's way over 9 million NFTs, and I haven't even checked it lately. But okay, let's get back to your project now. We are here for Kaos Moon, and what is Kaos Moon if we go into that?
Chaos Moon is basically, it's a paranormal, I used to call it paranormal occult urban fantasy about a young Russian medium. Medium is a person with spiritual abilities, basically. And she's sort of like a channel for an ancient shaman called Kaos Moon. And the Kaos Moon is part of 3 shamans that survived the Christian invasion in Siberia. And obviously you can tell I'm not the biggest Christian fan. And they sort of like, one of them turned really bad. That's Vort, it's one of the horns. And he's sort of out to revenge, basically. And he keeps himself alive over all these years by feeding off the soul. So the more people he basically eats their soul, the more... Remember the movie The Dark Crystal, where the Skeksis basically, they milk the podlings? out their life energy basically, and they
I'm not
drink
sure I
that.
have seen
That keeps
that.
them
Yeah.
alive. It's sort of like that concept. We've seen this in fantasy books.
Yeah.
Elric is the same thing. He sort of uses a sword, and every time he uses the sword, he eats the souls. And so it's kind of like that concept. And then we have like another shaman, Shraza. She's sort of like in between, and Kaos Moon is sort of like quote unquote the good shaman, basically. So it's sort of like this world, and so she's caught basically in between this. And every time she channels Kaos Moon, she herself gets actually weaker. So she's really heavily reliant on medication. So this is sort of the origin story, and that's sort of the base story. And then basically she can also does consulting work for other paranormal stuff. So when somebody has a problem, like in one story, for example, some rich guy, his crystal skull disappears, and he goes to her and says, how can you find this for me? And then she finds out basically that the crystal skull came from an ancient Chinese civilization, basically, and so on and so on. So it's a mix between paranormal, little X-File-ish, some overworldly stuff, but a good mix of like things you don't really hear too often about in a pop culture medium.
That is nice. And so that is what Kaos Moon is. What are you bringing to the Wax ecosystem?
Right. I mean, for starters, in the beginning it was just the ideas of cards. Makes sense. Obviously, I can't do the fancy unpacking because I don't have the DApp yet. Maybe that will come one day. But from the beginning on, it was very clear to me that I wanted the cards to be at least visually animated, appealing. So definitely different. And a lot of people told me the graphics definitely stand out. I mean, that was the first thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of like my biggest complaint or like criticism on a lot of the cards in Wax, that they're graphically just not very appealing. And one project, particularly the Alien Worlds, which I think is as a concept, a great concept, but visually it could use a little pep. It could be a little less gray and a little less brown, a little more color. And my stuff is fairly colorful and pretty intense looking. So that's the one thing. And then obviously I have the whole world behind it that has been developed. I don't think I've mentioned this before, but Kaos Moon is also a comic book graphic novel series that I've created 25 years ago. So we have 25 years worth of mythology basically to build upon. So that's being used in there. So we have that. Then there's also the link to transmedia thing, actually, in the sense that like, how should I explain this best? I mean, that's a little bit down the road, but that maybe people that are winning stuff in the game will be rewarded with reward tokens for physical stuff. You don't really see that too often because I do have so much physical stuff available. And then the second step was that people started asking you, well, what's the game? Of course, I had a rule book designed for the beginning. That's how the cards are built up. It's like a Magic the Gathering type of thing, just like different. I'm using different terminology, but the basics are sort of like the same. And now the next step basically is that I really would like this developed as a DApp. It doesn't have to be super complicated, but something that people can get engaged in, which is going to be hosted basically on the Kaos Moon website that actually is going to come in like a dedicated website. And the next step basically will be then to get for all my 3 projects, get a reward token. So the people get involved in the virtual graphics with the like this one or that one or so, they can exchange the tokens, they can connect if they interact, and so on and so on. So get the whole thing bigger than just like one game.
Yeah. Okay, there's a lot of parts, and you
Yes.
actually answered a lot of my questions when you kept going, so that was good. But when you say a game, what exactly does that mean? You said that it's like Magic the Gathering and games like that. So that's Hearthstone. That's all these games. They are very
Right.
similar. But like, how is the gameplay? Is that something that is done in the physical world? Is that something that you want to do? You said that building a DApp, is that something that is required, or how does it work?
Right. I mean, the rule book will basically explain the base story. So basically what cards you need, how they're being used, and what you can achieve with it, basically. So there's like a storyline that, look, I mean, most of those games don't really take too long to play. You don't want to play this for hours and then. You should be able to play a game within 10 to 20 minutes with some satisfying result, basically. And so I have some cards that drag things out a little more, and I have some cards that speed things up a little more, depending on what you have. And the idea, again, this is the first chapter that was just dropped of 5 chapters. The idea is that towards the end of the chapter, I will have a physical, not I should say physical. Say at this point, blockchain is almost physical because I'm so in the middle of it. Basically, I actually have a virtual place because the website is called Virtual Graphics, my main site. That connects everything. Where on the Kaos Moon site, you can actually play with the cards physically, as that will be hosted then by us on the DApp on the website. That's sort of like the idea.
Yeah, so there will be a game that people can actually play.
That's the idea, absolutely.
And like you're saying that a rule book already exists. Does that mean like if I want to play it soon, is that possible, or do I need to wait for it? For me, it sounds like the rule book is outside of that graphical game that you're talking about, and
well, that's the question: how are we going to integrate everything? I mean, this is unfortunately, and I keep telling this people that the good news is you can be in the beginning of something. The bad news is we don't know the ending really yet. And that's like with a lot of this technology. You're buying an NFT today for 20,000. I'll bring you $20,000 thing. But you buy an NFT for a lot of money. You don't know what's going to happen to the NFT in 10 years with whatever technology. You may not be able to look at it anymore for whatever reason. Ethereum may go down in flames for all we know. I mean, let's be honest, we just don't know. But what I have is I have a plan. I have it outlined. And usually what happened to me in the past is that when I usually do something and I see the end, I have the vision of it. It usually happens that way because you can make it happen. It's not a mystery. It's just getting the right people together, getting the stuff produced and done.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. Have you played Hearthstone?
I have not.
Okay, so yeah, it's Magic the Gathering, but it's a computer game instead. Like a Magic the Gathering is a computer game as well these days. But
yeah, that's correct.
So we have one game on Wax that is like that. It's called Dark Country. They are building.
I heard of them. Yeah,
yeah. They actually have very interesting graphics. They are very dark, very.
That was a good one.
Mysterious. And their game is very interesting, and it's growing. I saw that they right now they have some kind of tournament where they are starting to put in some smaller sums that you can win for profit if you play it. I think it was like $500. So they're trying to build this competitive community, and that is a card game. So you choose your deck and then you randomize and you fight against another player by getting your cards, and then you're placing one of them, and then you have your attack and everything, exactly like Magic.
That's along those lines, basically. What's really important for me in the first step is basically, first of all, I have to get more cards done. I mean, that's out of question. With the 7 or 8 cards I have so far, I ain't gonna play any games. First of all, but that helps me also like to refine the rules, because the story I do have, the mythology and the world building exists, so that's a good thing. Now, the thing is just basically what I want to do is I want to create this world so people want to stay in this world. Because to me, that's sort of like why any kind of entertainment property is successful. Kids loved Harry Potter. They wanted to stay in the world of Harry Potter. That's why they kept coming back. So you have to create this environment. And yeah, there's a technical aspect to the DApp aspect on how you actually play it. But there's also an aspect of like, what kind of world are you creating? And that's mostly visual and storytelling wise, basically. What are you telling people? And so far, and that's been one of the problems on Kaos Moon in the past, and I see this already sort of happening, is that the world is not immediately accessible because it's not something most people are familiar with. And everybody knows this orc. Everybody knows they're like, they're elves, and they're dark elves, and whatever the hell they're called. There's sort of like these familiar tropes. And I'm using a lot of creatures from mythology. They're actually quite, especially now you see the second chapter coming up on April 9th. I have a lot of, I have sirens in there. I have Nepcow. And Nepcow, nobody knows what a Nepcow is. He's a guardian of the Egyptian underworld, that guards the 7 gates. It's a very, very interesting, it really does exist in Egyptian mythology. I'm not making that stuff up.
Yeah.
So I'm taking stuff that actually has very much deep mythological symbolic meaning, and basically taking it out and making it look different from everything else. And that will take time. That will take time until people actually get into it. And I think that's sort of like important to note, that you can. I mean, I've started this 2 weeks ago. We're so early in no pun in the game that you cannot expect any real results after 2 weeks. Quite frankly, if I look at the sales, I'm actually quite happy with what I've done in 2 weeks. It's for those are relatively cheap cards. Maybe I should note to your audience, I'm really not charging a lot for those.
Okay, you're not charging. What are you charging for them? How are you selling them?
Yeah.
You say that chapter 2 is coming soon, so chapter 1 is already out. How
Right.
do people get them?
Yeah, let me just do a very quick number overview. Basically, that's very important. There is actually on the Twitter and on the website, there is a I don't know if I sent this to you, the what do you call the roadmap?
Sure.
Otherwise,
roadmap, I'm not sure about. I don't recall
but
that I've seen that.
I did make a little roadmap basically because a lot of people call it Series 1, blah blah blah. And I thought that was kind of boring. I wanted to be more like a mythological book, a mystery book. So I have chapter 1. So the starter set, which has all the main important initial cards, will be 86 cards. Will be five chapters. They will be rolled out pretty much about 3 weeks apart. So we had the first one 2 weeks ago. Next week will be chapter 2. Will be another 15 cards, and then will be another 15 cards or 20 cards or whatever. So until the 86 cards are basically done, and then you have sort of the basis. Now, in the beginning, in chapter 1, there's a few very important cards. There's the legendary cards, which is a thing I stole from Magic, basically. So legendary, it sounds good,
Yeah.
And those come in 3 configurations. We have gold, silver, and regular. And the whole point of the regular cards is essentially that I wanted it to be this inexpensive that pretty much everybody can afford to buy the whole deck without losing their shirt. So you can just about buy any card, but you're not going to get a low mint, a rare. It's not going to be super rare. So the configuration, of course, because mythological numbers are great, is a 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6. So we have 6 gold, 66 silver, and 666 regular.
I approve.
I thought that was kind of like a neat thing, and I think with those cards, we're it's going to take a while till they're sold, completely sold out.
And how are you selling them? Is it drops or did you figure out the drops, or are you selling them one NFT at a time and listing them manually on the marketplace? Or
I'm doing a fake drop basically. I'm just minting them and putting them on, and then telling people I just dropped the cards.
Okay, yeah. So you're putting them on the market, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I've basically minted enough for them to be so. I didn't put all 666 on because, as you well know, you can only mint 10 at the time on wax.
You can actually mint 99. If you write really? 99 instead of 10, it will change to 10. But if you hit the mint button, it will be 99.
I was wondering about that. I've done that by accident, and he did it. And yeah. I didn't know what I was doing. It always made a whole bunch of them. I was like, how did it do that? And then it will only let me do 10. It's
okay. And you can do more like I do script, so I can just set some settings, and I hit enter, and I can mint as many as I want, and send out to as many as I want. So it's not that much of a deal. There are also other tools that you can use, since you need some tech help from when I could. So you want to build a DApp, you want to get everything working, and there are tools that you can use, like Bounty Block has their airdrop tool that you just log in and you say, I want to mint from this template, and then you have a list of accounts, and then you just send it out to them automatically. So you could actually sell like this is an airdrop NFT. It's not transferable, because if it's transferable, then people will sell it after they got the drop, and that is a problem in my view. I have seen some people that do these drops where they have the drop item, and then that item start to trade after the drop, and then it's worthless, and that is a problem. So that should be, in my opinion, it should not be transferable.
Look, I mean, there's a lot of ethical, it's one of the kind of the problems I have with this whole thing. It's sort of like the trader mentality of the people on wax. I mean, like one of the things that I've done, maybe we should talk about this quickly, is to attract interest. one of the great ways you can do in wax, because it is so cheap to mint, is to do giveaways.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably wouldn't do that on Ethereum, but but in wax you can definitely do that.
I have an awesome one.
What do you mean?
I have an awesome one, an awesome NFT from that was given.
Oh, I see. Yeah. You got a number 2, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Exactly. And the thing is, essentially, the idea, of course, is to attract people to the game and to the idea behind it. But of course, as you well know, what happens is sharks come out, and people just want to get cheap or free NFT so they can put it in a market. And when I released the NFTs today, just out of curiosity, I wanted to see how quickly they end up on the market. And I gave away 75, and I think 15 or somewhere on there for the first 5 minutes. And that is to be expected. I mean, it's not what I intended it for, but you can't stop it,
No, and like the way I see it is that adds value because it adds liquidity to the NFT and to the collection and everything. So I understand that you want it to be in the hands of collectors, but collectors might not already know about it, so they might not even know that they want it. And people trading it is a great way for other people to learn about it, find out about it, and to get access to it.
Right. No, of course. At this stage, the way I look at basically at this stage, anything is good. Any publicity, like they say, bad publicity is good publicity or whatever. There's like some saying. That's kind of like the thing. I'm really happy for, I'm happy to be on with you. I was happy to be mentioned yesterday on the NFT beat. Or Ken Bosat, he did a shout out. So it's like this all helps, to establish this whole thing. You got to start somewhere. That's kind of like the way I approach things. You start somewhere, then you work your way up, because that whatever your goal is, it is doable. It's not a mystery. What would not be doable if I had to learn drawing right now?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's sort of like the way I look at it. Everything else can sort of like all the marketing aspect, the actual complete gamification aspect, the technical about that can all be worked out much faster than actually learning how to draw and tell a story like this.
Yeah, for sure. And like 25 years of storytelling, that is a lot of experience.
That is. And I noticed that, I mean, that's one I keep telling a lot of people. A lot of people are saying like, wow, how many people working on this? I'm like, no, it's just me. What? You do this all by yourself? It says, I can only do this because I've been doing it for 27 years. If I did not do that, I could not be able to do what I'm doing, So that's sort of like all the hard work that I've put in now sort of like is paying off in a big way.
Yeah.
And I don't have a lot of competition when it comes to that, because how many people do we know that can do exactly what I can do?
Yeah. I mean, right now there's not a lot of people that have this many years of experience of working on a lot of different projects and launching your own project and everything. Yeah. And that is something that I find exciting, because this whole interview, sharing your story, sharing your background, this is exactly what you need to reach more people, because they will see, oh, he worked here. This list is never ending. He launched his own project. Oh, this new project, it's actually 25 years old. So that is something that will give you, I think, attention in a positive way. I'm sure of it. I mean, people can see your artwork. When they do that, they will see that there is a lot of anime, manga feeling to it. It's very exciting. Like we talked about it before, and I have references to a lot of, like when I grew up, I watched a lot of anime. I read a lot of manga. I found that very exciting. It's a beautiful like art style that they use. It's all the big eyes and everything they do. It's very cool. Very.
It has a very unique aesthetic vision behind it. Basically, it's sort of like detailed yet simplified.
Yeah, and
it's
like
kind of like what I'm trying to do with my stuff. Basically, is one of the problems that I've had with Kaos Moon early on. Well, actually, it's not a problem. It was a good thing. I got nominated for a lot of awards when it first came out because the artwork was so over the top. But the problem, it turned off a lot of readers because it was just too much.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I got a little anecdote here. When I was in New York, I was friends with Joe Simon. Joe Simon is the creator of Captain America. Now we're talking way back. Captain America was created in the 1940s. So he was, at the time when I met him, he was probably 88 or 89 or 90 even. I was literally like very old. And he really liked me quite a bit. And he always would say, like, David, bring some of the stuff over. I want to see what you're doing. I want to see your artwork. So I brought him the Kaos Moon book. And he's like looking at it. And it's like, oh, shit's giving me a headache. This shit's giving me a headache. Why are you drawing all these lines? I can't even see what's going on. So what gave me all the awards, what gave me all the recognition from the cult following, so to speak, for him was just totally unacceptable. And as I kept simplifying the style and sort of like animifying the style, it sort of became more popular because people had an easier way to get into it. And I see this now when I post older artwork on my Twitter, it doesn't get the same attention as the newer art. So it's like the artist, like, that's what I keep saying about great fine artists. It's simplification, it's reduction.
Yeah,
is essentially the goal. Like Matisse at the end of his life would do like paper cuts. Very simple, good. It's a stupid analogy because it's fine art. This is a completely different thing. But I really, that's the whole thing. It's even story-wise, I'm trying to reduce it more. It's just that I'm a avid reader. I'm a very complex kind of person, and I have a hard time to bring it down to a Harry Potter type of thing, where it's like simple match wizards against like, Voldemort or whatever the hell. I never even read any of the books. I shouldn't even say anything. You know what I mean?
I have read them all in Swedish and in English. I watched all the movies probably 10 times. So I know the story fully.
Okay, but it is sort of like the visual archetypes of Harry Potter are very simplified, basically.
Yeah.
And that's, I sort of like, I want to do something that I also like doing. So it's sort of always the problem when you do entertainment properties. Where is that line between what really interests you, what you want to do, and people will also understand? How can you communicate that?
Yeah, for sure.
That is a big problem.
Yeah, it is. But like the first time I saw your project before you emailed me. I saw it before.
You said that.
So like I see a lot of things in some chats or on the Atomic Marketplace, and then I went in and I like, this looks really good. I wonder who made this. The website doesn't necessarily say Kaos Moon. It was something else.
Oh no, the website wasn't up at that point.
No, it was your personal website that I think I got into.
Well, Kaos Moon had a mini site on the personal site, but that wasn't even up. That was only up last week.
Yeah. So when I found it all looked very nice, but there's not really a lot of information here. Who is this guy? What is this collection? Correct. Is this some Asian person that have come and see this? That was my initial idea, and I don't know what this is. And then I got your email and I looked at, okay, I wonder who this is, and like, oh, it's this one. I have seen it. And as I also told you, I could relate to Helsing, which is this beautiful, very dark anime series. Gothic, yeah. It is very, very dark. Like, it is not for kids. It is not an anime made for kids.
Is not for kids.
That is, and like something just tricked to me out. This I can relate to them in some way, and I couldn't really put it on what it is.
It's the same symbolic language. I am very much influenced by late 80s, early 90s anime like Demon City. Like a Vampire Hunter D, like all of the Studio Madhouse things basically from that time. Then even some TV anime like Cat's Eyes or whatever was on TV back at the time. A lot of it, as long as I even like the old Ralph Bakshi movies, as long as it was sort of realistically drawn. What I don't really like is when he, like the anime now, for example, where he gets like too cartoony and all the fan service. I really can't stand the fan service. It's just like booby girls that look like 10-year-olds. I mean, it's just like, come on. Seriously.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of manga and anime that is questionable.
It's just garbage.
But there is a lot. Like, one of my favorite one is, I would probably say it's cartoonish, is Bleach. That like when I was young.
Yeah.
When I was young, that was like it was the big thing in my small community. Bleach was awesome, and Naruto came, and that is like, it's crazy big now, and One Piece and all of these, they were
Absolutely.
all early stages, and like I watched them from the start, waiting each week, streaming them from as soon as they was translated and everything, downloading them back then just to have them on my computer and watch them again, and distributing it to my friends. All of these that are today you can do, but back then is what people were doing, because that's the only way you could get hand of it. Fans translated them and everything, and then so for me, when I see the art, it is very relatable, because this is my background, this is my childhood when I see it, and that is very nice. So you're talking about 86 different cards, and you had different rarities. Are the 86 counting rarities, or does 86 different one has these different rarities?
There will definitely be no. There will be 86 individual cards, and of some of them there will be different rarities. You saw, for example, the card that I gave you today that has only one rarity. I mean, that's just a flat. So a lot of these cards are elemental cards, totem cards, like a totem animal. It's like an ancient Native American thing, or Siberian shamanic thing, that you have a totem animal, basically, that you have a connection that sort of guards. It's like a guardian angel, less corny than a guardian angel, but sort of like the guardian angel thing,
Yeah.
And I released the wolf totem, which was very, very well received. And there's a whole bunch. There's the raven coming in the next chapter. And so there's sort of these typical things. So those are cards that you can't really do that terribly much with it. It's just like a one action kind of card,
Yeah.
So there will just be flat. They will have no other rarities, just one. And then there's the character cards. They come in several rarities, basically. Because, as you like, I call them alchemical rarities, because it's gold, silver, and regular. Sounds a little better than, I like alchemy. I was really obsessed with alchemy for a while, and I thought it's much deeper than people just think. It's not just about making, gold out of nothing, basically. Obviously, there's a very deep wisdom behind it. And I thought it was kind of neat, and it also enhances the power of that particular card. So if you have like a villain, like Varg, for example, and you have a gold Varg or a gate. I have these gate cards that allow you to escape certain situations, like a Stargate, like a star portal, like to another dimension. And you have a gold card. There's only 3 of them. You're very unlikely to get one of those, because quite frankly, I think they're already almost all sold out or sold. Because once you get one of those, it will give you really great power. So then it's sort of like the alchemical status enhances the card. That's kind of like the way to do it. And sort of like boosted by the rarity of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. I'm a big gamer, so everything here that you are talking about makes full sense for me.
Yeah, I mean, the key thing really is, and I want to hammer this thing home. It should really, at this point, it should be just really visually appealing. I mean, that's what will attract people to it.
Yeah,
and then we'll work out in the long run everything else.
This rule book, will that be distributed? Will that be on your website,
free.
Or will that be a PDF?
Basically, what I'm going to do is that the next step. I already got the domain. I just need to put it together quickly. I have the mini site, so I'm going to transfer the part of the mini site that I need. So the Kaos Moon site with its own domain, basically, it will have like the backstory, which you already see on the mini site right now, is sort of like the mythology. Then there will basically be character descriptions of the individual characters that are more detailed than the back of the cards. I have very nice back cards, where you can see like what's going on in a card. You see like the status and everything like that. You can also get books, of course, over the website then as downloads, and then of course, there will be the whole game mechanism on the site to look at and downloadable in various formats. That will obviously be free.
Very nice. One thing that come to my mind is I have actually started to see this from multiple projects that are NFT projects. They have started to create physical cards as well. Is that something you have a long-term plan or idea of doing, or is that something that is not interesting?
Actually, on my other project, Sky Gods, I have a set of physical cards. And they're sort of like, like a nice card thing, basically, that are different than the ones that are going to be because the Tezos project, that's going to be the Tezos project. That's going to go a little bit in a different project direction, because if I have the muscle of Tezos behind it, I can do a lot more in terms of like visual experience. And again, it's a different project because it's the universe, it's alien planets, it's more like alien worlds basically, but what I would consider to be more visually appealing than alien worlds, and less money staking. Alien worlds is like, my opinion, like a staking game.
It is a DeFi economic platform.
Exactly.
That is the base layer.
Exactly.
And
that is not that exciting to me. I mean, that's something that I want to do with the token eventually, but I'm more of a world builder basically. And the other thing is too, we shouldn't forget that, and I keep hammering this idea home, that especially with the Alien project, there is gigantic communities. I mean, Facebook groups with hundreds and thousands of members that are into this kind of stuff. And I see that when I make a poster, I get like 240 comments in a day. I mean, it's like off the charts. They're really, really into this basically. And what we need to do at some point is onboard more of those people.
Yeah.
Because right now it is a really small world. You're just sort of like circling. When I tell like the Kaos Moon people, for example, that know me from the books and from the anime and stuff like that, they look at me with big eyes like, what are you talking about? No, it's if you don't get it, you don't get it,
Yeah, and I think that the last few months has really helped kickstarting that. But to be honest, no blockchain project yet is ready for mainstream adoption.
No, but what's going to happen is that, let's say from those groups, I post that, let's say that this game is going to be available on Tezos, easy onboarding. I post this in those groups. Those people really, really want to be part of this, because nobody else is doing anything with aliens like this. The aliens are always the bad guys, or it's always a shooting thing. But friendly aliens, or like aliens that actually have culture like we have, just like the interesting visuals. I mean, I got hundreds of pictures of those aliens. You should see some of those. I mean, it's like people love that stuff, and nobody's doing it. And once you give them enough incentive and you say, okay, good, you have to open a Temple wallet or a Kukai wallet or whatever the hell they have to open, then you're in. Yeah. It's not going to really cost you very much, because Tesla's cheap to mint. There will be a variety of cards like here. You can buy some of the cards for like 50 cents, 70 cents, $1, or whatever it is. Depends on how the wax goes up and down. But once you get enough of those people into it, they just need to see that one project. It's the same with me. I just needed the 5-minute moment where everything clicks. Yeah. And the customer needs to have the same thing. They need to see the one thing that's appealing to them enough to get into it.
Let's go back. Let's summarize what we have been talking about. What Kaos Moon is, how people can find it, what you're releasing. Let's get this pitch for people.
Okay, Kaos Moon is an occult fantasy card game in the very early stages. Chapter 1 was just released 2 weeks ago. Chapter 2 will be released on April 9th. You can get it on the Wax platform, Atomic Hub. Collection is Kaos Moon IBC1. So really easy basically to find. You can even type in Kaos Moon, it comes right up.
It will be linked below as well, so people can find it. Oh, super.
Yeah. That's good. And the plan is basically to move it over to its own domain, which will be up in the next week or two. And there will be a rule guide that shows you like the world that's been built, the whole mythology behind it, what you can actually do with the card in the game, and how the game will be played. And eventually there will be a tab on that website, where you can actually use the cards, then accordingly to play the game. And then we'll take it from there.
Awesome. I think that's good. I think we have a lot of information. The most major thing that I wanted to touch was getting people to know you, know your story, so they understand where you come from, what you want to do, and where you are right now. And that is awesome. And I really enjoy the artwork you're doing. I really think this is something cool. I'm looking forward to see if you manage to pull off the game, if you manage to pull off everything that you want to do. I really hope, I really believe you want to do it. That's the feeling that I get. So I think that it will happen. One last question I have. The rule book that you're talking about, is that something that is done now, or that it will be created soon?
That will be created very soon. This is actually in progress, essentially. You know, as I've created the cards, as I've created the game, as I've put the website together, I've taken more and more notes. I keep getting more and more ideas. And of course, at the end, it has to be cohesive and it actually has to be playable. So you have to be very careful that, like, especially because on the back of the cards, I have like strength numbers, magic numbers, and like a variety of attributes, basically, so that those numbers really make sense. Not that the game is over after 2 minutes. You know,
Yeah.
so the game should be playable and it should be fun. And the important part for me is, because it is a world building game to some extent too, that the situation that you encounter need to be a situation you don't necessarily expect, and that would be plausible in that world. So you're trying to create rules that make the game playable, but also show you the world, because if you want to stay in that world, then you will come back.
Yeah, that sounds good. How can people reach you? The website is one place. Do you have any Telegram channel, Discord? Do you have any other kind of way? Facebook group? I don't know.
I have a Twitter account that is very active, at least 4 to 5 daily updates. A lot of pictures, a lot of people reacting into it and stuff like that. That's Kaos Moon _circle. Then we got the Telegram. That's really sort of like been getting more and more members too. There's also a Discord. You can just type in Kaos Moon. Usually it just comes up right away.
I guess everything will be linked from your website as well, yeah, so people know what
eventually,
they should look for.
From the website, of course. The domain will be kaosmoon.ch. So just one word, really, really simple.
Yeah.
And from there, all the social media will be linked from that, basically. And you can DM me or like the email. I'm really easy to reach, basically. I'm very friendly. I will not bite.
My experience so far is that you're very quick at responding, so that is very nice.
Well, that's one of the things that I since I work at home, it's one of the things with the whole COVID thing. Everybody is like, "Oh, I'm working from home." It's like, I've been doing this for 27 years.
Yeah,
they finally know how I've been living. Now, so usually when I'm available, I can respond really, really quick. And sometimes in the middle of something, especially when I do animation or like I'm in the middle of a project, you should have seen me before I uploaded the first chapter. You could not have gotten a hold of me basically for days. It was really that first I have to say that first quote unquote drop was really, really stressful, because you're dealing with something new, you're dealing with a new platform, and now everything goes really well, and
yeah,
pretty much no problem. I have to say that Wax is really, it's really reliable. I mean, I got a few failed transactions and stuff that happens, but compared to other platforms, it is really,
yeah. You usually failed transactions is bad communication with the API. That's usually the service is reading the wrong kind of data. Once it reaches the blockchain, there is no issues, and that is beautiful. Like all the issues we had on Wax so far is all layers on top of Wax that has been needing of optimizations, because the transaction volume has gone up a lot. Like request of NFTs. I mean, we have over 10 million NFTs on Wax already.
Was it 10 million? Last time I checked was 8.8.
Yeah, now it's 9.9 atomic assets, and then we have a lot of simple assets. So yeah, there's a lot of NFTs, and when they get created more and all the transactions, some of these APIs they get thousands of requests sometimes, and spurges, like now it's a sale, everyone buys, everyone opens packs, there's a lot of data to handle, and they slow down. But everything has been optimized now, so it looks like things are moving way, way better, and we're getting more and more ready for awesome things. So that's fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited. I'm willing to do this for as long as I'm interested in. I mean, I think the response has been pretty good. It just takes time to build up, because as we talked about, it's a very small circle, and there's not that much competition. Yes, you're talking about 10 million NFTs, but within this conceptual world.
Yeah.
I think there isn't really, if you look at I think you can look on Wax on the dApps. There's a tab where you can see all the dApps. There isn't that many of them.
Yeah, there are not that many. I mean, out of those over 10 million NFTs, about 3 million are Alien World NFTs also.
I was going to say that. I did listen to an interview with the Alien World, one of the Alien World creators, and he was talking about the just the horrific situation of having to upload this many NFTs. He was like, day and night.
Exactly. So that is like building those scripts. It was actually one of the Dacathon events that I was hosting. We were talking about the issues he had when creating this scale with everything. Like if you mint NFTs and you have mistakes, that is difficult. And when you mint thousands of, like a lot of different templates and schemas, something will go wrong, and you have to minimize that as much as possible. Yeah. But yeah. I'm very grateful to get to know you and that you came on and shared everything. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with this and reading about the rule book and seeing the website and everything put together. So yeah, please update everyone, and when the game is going, we have to meet up again and talk about it.
Yeah, we'll do a like in half a year or so, when half a year seems like forever at this rate. I mean, just what I've achieved in 2 weeks, when I look back where I was 2 weeks ago, it seems like a year ago. And I cannot even imagine where it will be like in a few months if this keeps going at this kind of pace.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely I would love to come back. And I thank you for your service to making great videos. It was really very helpful. Maybe that's really important to people who I noticed that, like on a lot of the NFT groups on Facebook that I'm part of, a lot of people are discussing, what is this wax platform? I've heard that it's supposed to be really good and really like no gas fees and stuff like that, but it's so unknown. And I type in, it's like, I don't think so. Did you ever look at that radar?
Yeah.
I mean, but it's just the EVE people. They're just so caught in this OpenSea wearable nifty gateway haze, basically, that they can't see outside.
Yeah, and I think that is helping now with, like, Tops came and dropped Garbage Pail Kids, and they did all of this. Shatner came, Deadmau, but they like Tops got few people started. They got everything. Like after 2 weeks, we had 3 new marketplaces on Wax. Things exploded thanks to them, and from that it's been growing. Then Street Fighter came, a lot of new people, and now Godzilla did like a crazy sale, which I did not expect. I bought packs because I'm crazy. I want all of the NFTs, but I did not buy Godzilla thinking I will get my money back. I did not think that the value will be higher than I paid for it. Now I was lucky; I got a legendary one, so I probably am good off there anyway. But that, like some of these releases, like Alien World Land, I expected them to go up in price after they were bought. I did not expect that with the Godzilla, for example, and that might change. We will see.
Yeah, but we need more people making videos like you. I mean, you were one of the early people that I've noticed when I was researching, getting into it. Basically, there's not too many. It's like you, Stash, at the Wax School. But she does like these super quick videos. They're not really very helpful. It's like quick guide in 2 minutes, blah, 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 blah. Okay, good. I've learned nothing. Great. But more in-depth videos, basically, for people to get into the platform.
I'm very happy to hear that. So that's good.
How easy the onboarding is, like, for example. That needs to be much better communicated compared to, like, dealing with MetaMask wallets. And I mean, if you just think about it, you can actually onboard on Wax without an exchange.
Yeah, you can.
Exactly. There you go.
You can, and it's really good. So yeah, let's wrap this up, and thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward for everything.
Thank you, Anders. Thank you. Appreciate it.